I'm Cynthia Closkey. With me is Sarah Mayer.
Hi, everyone.
We're here to talk about things in the marketing, advertising, communications realm. What's interesting this week and best practices, a little bit of how to, whatever else floats our boat. How are we feeling today, Sarah?
Pretty good. You may notice I am in a different location. I'm still in my house, but I'm in my husband's office because, we had some technical difficulties a few weeks ago. Well, I did, not you, with internet and sound and all sorts of things. So I'm excited to test out this new environment with all sort of new things in here. So hopefully
That's
it's
awesome. Now,
good.
did you bring over this orchid from the other room,
I
or?
did. I brought a few things over. I brought my fiddle fig plant, my orchid. I brought my miniature schnauzer pillow. Trying to make it a little bit more like my office. I may or may not have hung some things on the door back there. So it was a
So
kind of
you,
Spartan in here.
So you were trying to make it more like yours, but then you outed yourself by saying that it wasn't yours in the very first place. So
Right. Well, just to explain where I am in the world. I am in my
absolutely,
other
yeah, for
office.
sure. It's a little bit of personal branding there. Plus, the orchid matches your sweater.
Yes, I'm glad you noticed.
That's what I'm here for. So this week we're going to talk about a few things. We usually start out with a little bit of news before we dig into our larger topic. So what kind of news did you want to share this week, Sarah?
Well, so I grew up playing basketball. I loved it. So from ever, I think I must have been in middle school when I started. And so I was really excited about this piece of news, even though I don't play anymore. Under Armour, which is obviously a big sports brand that most people are kind of familiar with, debuted a women's basketball sneaker or shoe. And why is this exciting? I mean, the sort of 13-year-old in me is excited about it because I would always have to, you go to the store and you know that you're just getting the boys version of the shoe. It just happens to have maybe some more vibrant colors or something. And these are actually designed around a woman's foot and how she plays. And it's about time. I mean, it's 2020. So it's just exciting. And it's good to see a brand trying to do this, in my opinion.
Very cool.
And I
Very
think,
cool.
yeah.
I didn't really play basketball much. Of course, we had to do it in gym class, but I am afraid of
The
things
ball?
flying in the air, so
Sure.
it makes it hard for me to play any sport. But we in high school, high top sneakers were very much the style, and so and you could wear whatever shoes you wanted with your our school uniform. So
Mhm.
I did have a pair of white high tops. And I remember those challenges that you're talking about, the wider heel
Yeah.
and just the style in general looking a little bit kind of off.
Yeah,
Sure.
they're like bulky in weird places. Like I have a high arch, and so some of the shoes would be bulky on the arch because they were just made for flat feet. I guess I have no idea. Um, so yeah, I'm excited for all of the young women basketball players out there that finally get to play with a shoe that is for them,
It
designed
is
for them.
interesting. It took so long for them to come around to it. So that's cool.
Look, and I've been, like I said, I haven't played basketball in a long time. Maybe there's some other brand out there, Nike perhaps, that has done this. But anyway, this was in the news this week. So that's why it's
Very cool.
being talked about.
Right. So, so I had a little piece of news that I noticed as well. And this is an ad that I thought was particularly well done. Just really, just a really good spot. And so it is for. Let me just pull it up here for us. A can. Coors Light. Not a product that I'm necessarily a great consumer of, but that doesn't mean that the ad can't be amazing. And maybe if it's good enough, I'll dive right in and have a can.
Well, just question: Did you stumble upon this through like a newsletter, or was this ad served to you while you were watching something?
it was served to me while I was watching something.
Interesting.
Specifically,
But you're not a beer drinker.
No, I'm not really a big, I mean, I do enjoy beer, but the beers that I like tend to be sort of smaller, kind of craft type beers and not Coors Light. So again, I don't know. But I do watch a lot of food related videos on YouTube, including like the Try channel, which I don't know if you've ever seen the Try channel, but it is
not.
Irish people trying things and talking about them in Irish accents with all the references.
Oh, that sounds delightful.
It is. It's a lot of fun. They'll always have like two of them talking together, and then they'll have three pairs of two people. And so they'll do things like they'll try American whiskeys or Canadian whiskeys or all the different flavors of Pop-Tarts, you know, and then they talk about them and how they relate to things. Anyway, so I have a feeling that it's things like that that cause YouTube to decide that I'm the sort of person who is apparently in college. So, and thus the Coors Light. But this commercial here, and this is the full version, I think, the 60-second version. What I actually originally saw was shorter. Just was pretty funny. So I'm gonna play a little bit of it for you. I think if we play the whole thing, it'll be a problem for our video here. Can you hear it?
No.
Could you hear it at all? No. I can super hear it. So
it's probably in your earbuds.
That's what it's doing. It was really in my earbuds there. So let's see here. Let's try it again. Now can you hear it?
Yep.
Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I've got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way. All the sounds of the earth are like music.
So this is a song. Do you recognize it, by the way?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So a song from Oklahoma. And and of course you can see he's interacting with all these people. I'm just going to jump ahead a little bit, like I said, because maybe that'll let me play the punchline.
Now we'll move on to slide 236, which covers our third quarter. Line 45, we're at 62%, and then on line 40.
So
cool.
I just think that was clever in so many ways. It's you know, good use of humor, clever editing, and then this, and you know, they've chosen, you know, what I assume is an award-winning song from an award-winning musical that people will recognize. But then this guy just seems so cheerful, and then you contrast that with the end and this experience that so many of us have of the endless Zoom meetings. And so it's a really great promotion. They're going to give away a trip to some place that gets used as the background. Or some kind of trip somehow. I just think it's a really great tie-in and just a very clever ad.
Yeah, it's memorable, and that's important as well. And like you say, they I feel like it's kind of challenging to tie in some sort of contest with a ad like this. So that's pretty well done.
Yep, absolutely. So that gets my vote for ad of the week, at least of ads that I remember, which, you know, is that being remembered alone is actually the whole point of the ad.
I haven't been consuming much this week in which ads were shown to me. So I don't have an ad of the week.
Well, but you did catch on to the basketball sneaker. That's
sure.
Newsy news. So.
It's newsy news.
Yeah.
Well, so maybe we should let the folks know that maybe just tuning in that this is Shift Office Hours, and it is an opportunity for us to, Cynthia and I, to just talk about marketing things that perhaps could be helpful to you. But we do want to hear from you. If you have specific questions, feel free to chat those specific marketing questions. I don't know that we're equipped to answer other types of questions. So you can chat those into the YouTube chat box. If you have questions that you would rather email, maybe longer thought out questions. We also have an email that you can send those to, and that is officehours@shiftcollaborative.com. So we would love to hear from you. Any way you want to send that.
Yeah. And if you don't, even if it's not about marketing, just send us questions. We'll give it our best shot. We're also
Try.
very good at Google, so maybe we'll be able to find an answer that way.
Yes.
Your own private Quora.
Yes. Well, what are we talking about today while we wait for the questions to pour in?
Sure. Well, so talking about the advertising maybe is a good thing to segue from, where, creating this great ad, a big piece of it is writing great copy. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about what copywriting is, what are best practices for doing it, and just sort of like great examples to inspire and engage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that we talk a lot about it internally. What does creative mean? And, if you've watched Mad Men or any kind of series on advertising, you probably hear art and copy thrown around. So we define creative here internally as copy and visuals, art and copy. And so today we want to talk about the copy aspect, really talking about how important it is, how important it is in moments of crisis. So we're talking about that a little bit, and then we're gonna, maybe just said this and I'm like in another world, but we're gonna do a little show and tell, how to, like, what's included, kind of break it down a little bit at the end of the live stream, in case you're raring to go and you want to start one.
Or if you've got some copy that is there, but maybe it's not performing as well as you want it to, or it doesn't inspire you, it doesn't cheer you. You've got maybe some ideas and some inspiration for making more of it.
Right.
Not making more copy, but making more of the copy that you have.
Right.
That's
and sometimes
an edit right there.
Yeah, there
that
you go.
Was an edit, right? Live edit as we went.
Live copy editing. I think too, copy is so many different things and used in so many different places. And, the most powerful copy can be very brief, it can be just a few words. We think about, copy you read in ads. In fact, it can take so much time to come up with the right headline and the right compelling set of phrases when used together to move people to action. It just really is such a powerful skill. Copywriting is. I'm in awe of all the great copywriters out there, for sure.
Absolutely. And a lot of the things that when we're working on text, the less space that you've got, it almost seems like the more of the challenge is to get the few words that you have available right. Of course, that makes you think about the apocryphal, 6-word story. How much of a short story could you do, not in like 6 pages, but in six words alone? So, and headlines are kind of like that. Taglines are like that. So, an example that you had been noticing, Sarah, I think, was around coronavirus. You had seen some ideas about messaging to kind of catch people's eyes about best practices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. So copywriter George Tannenbaum was engaged, I guess, by coronavirus, by the government, to, get people's attention to take, safety and precautions around coronavirus seriously, even though all of this copy is very much not serious. It's, it's fun, it's playful, but it's just really well done. I feel, kind of just, it's just really well done. It's very, very catchy and memorable. And there's something in here for everyone.
Yeah. I'm going to, because I know those words are pretty small and you actually really need, I'm going to see if I can resize this in a way that's going to make it come up better. But so each one of these little taglines that you can almost imagine as bumper sticker or something has a big major message, and then ties it to something else and includes a URL to visit to find out more. So this act like someone farted on the elevator, practice social distance. And by the way, all of the practice social distance tags in this follow-up lines have the letters spaced out a little tiny bit as a little extra visual punch.
That's
What-
it. I was just going to say that I'm betting people outside the creative world may not have noticed that. So thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, the little fine points of this, I think, are part of what's so great about it. I mean, they're funny. They're, like you say, they're taking a whole bunch of different, references from all over the place. So everybody, there's a little something here for everybody to get a little joy from.
Yeah.
Teenager who just got grounded, stay home, act like you're facing Ovechkin, wear masks. Ovechkin, for those who don't know, hockey players. So hockey players wear masks. So nothing takes the joy out of a joke quite like explaining it. So I apologize for that.
It's okay. We may not have hockey fans watching. I think it's fine to point that out.
Yeah, but these are real clever, and you can imagine sort of the brainstorming session that came up with them. You almost wonder, like, oh, they just put everything on there, but I'm sure that these are whittled down from
Right.
Even larger lists that they had put together. So there's a lot that's here. The design is so simple and elegant. It's just a real good, really great example of each of these things of great copy.
Right.
Combined
But like you're saying, of art and copy together too. But copy is kind of the star, if you will. The visuals are subtle so that the copy can shine.
Act like the queen, wear gloves. I mean,
Yeah, I like that one.
they're just funny. Yeah.
Yeah, there's good ones. There's a lot of good ones. We should share that link if we haven't already in the comments.
Share it in
links.
the comments. Absolutely.
Is that how you do it? I have no idea.
I don't know. The magic happens behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I just
we have a magic person who handles that.
Right.
But yeah, you can look at that link and browse the different ones and check it out. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, it's a great example of copy doing some good work.
Mm-hmm.
Another example is actually sort of an adjustment and a rebrand by Netflix that you had seen recently.
Yeah, I'd also seen that too. And both from LinkedIn. So the power of LinkedIn, a lot of really good articles on there. I think, like, in general, Netflix is one of those brands that, they put like their HR, handbook out for the public. They have a lot of their branding pieces out there for everyone to consume. So, these particular changes that they've made during a time when there's just a lot of, civil unrest. There's a lot of, people that are looking to big brands to do something. And this is sort of Netflix. It's a combination of things that Netflix has done to respond to this moment in time.
So the important part is that they're serious enough about their branding that they, in addition to having the branding that we, the public, see, they've got all this internal branding to kind of help reinforce their culture. They're famous for their culture. I mean, they have a whole presentation that you can catch online. And actually right now, this week's issue of The Economist has a whole big feature article in the business section on how they're striving to kind of preserve that culture of innovation. A big part of it is messaging, like this kind of things that we're talking about. So, and so there's a person whose entire title is employer branding lead, as part of the employer branding things that they do, and they do a lot of internal messaging. Big company, that's kind of not that unusual. So they had to adapt once they started the shutdown, and everybody had to start working from home.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that, we've seen brands beyond Netflix move away from whatever they were doing prior, whatever their messaging or copy direction was prior to the pandemic. They're just trying to be really thoughtful about responding to people's current emotional state and really thinking about where people are emotionally. And so in the case of Netflix here, they kind of are moving towards delight and joy and inspiration, as opposed to, kind of being a little bit more edgier, perhaps, with their tone and voice.
And then
Yeah, I like.
here's a little thing they did where they had team members. You can see each person, coming in a rainbow full of colors. So kind of
I was
good
like,
idea.
yeah, I was like, how do you do that? How do you, like, I'm sure it's well beyond my technical expertise, but to get everybody lined up.
I think they didn't line everybody up. This is just a collage.
Okay.
This is not a screenshot, to put it that way.
It's not a live. Yeah.
Yeah.
Live
Like, see how some people are bigger than others.
Right. Yes. Duh.
But anyway, it's a cool idea. It's cool that they did that now. But then, so they started to adapt to this as the pandemic and the shutdowns happened. They were adapting to this sort of warmer, more emotional appeal. But then, as the Black Lives Matter and the other issues started to happen in the June and July timeframe, they needed to adjust further. And so they reacted to that by starting to have their messaging internally focus a little bit on the perspectives and views of the people of color and other marginalized communities within their own community.
Right. But and I can't remember if the article talks about that, but this externally, as things were becoming more racially charged, and we want to be lifting up all of the great movies and documentaries and content that Netflix has on their platform. They were bringing that front and center to you as the user, to your homepage. So if you wanted to sort of like go down a pathway of really consuming content that was directed by people of color or written by people of color or focus on stories of people of color, that you could do that very easily from your homepage. So that kind of carried through to the public domain as well.
Absolutely. And just prioritizing those kind of things, prioritizing content that gives back. And then that's some other great things that they were doing that I think are things that we've talked about as also just generally good stuff. Quality over quantity. If you're churning out content, whether it's internal or external, just because that's the schedule and that's what you've always done, it's a great idea to take a pause and say, is this content of the quality that makes it worth having as much of it as we're making? If it's not, how can we either make it better or cut back so that everything that we put out is of, is really watch worthy or consumption worthy?
Yeah, it's well done, and I think kudos to them for doing all that they're doing, and I hope continue to do in this vein.
Yeah, absolutely. So this article again was on LinkedIn's talent blog, Samantha McLaren, and we'll share that link out as well.
I'm told that all of the links are in the description of the video, not in the comments.
Excellent. Thank you.
Like I said.
Very good. Good job.
Course correction.
So other examples of great copywriting, what other things do we want to share with the audience, with our friends here?
Yeah, so one of the marketing experts, authors that I follow is Hadley. I don't know, do you follow her at all?
No,
Handley, sorry.
I am unfamiliar with Anne, but she seems awesome.
Yeah, she's great. She has, a little newsletter that she puts out, and actually relatively recently she put out a piece about copywriting. So I thought that I would bring it to our attention, and it's titled what is like a case study in something or other. Let's see.
Yes, it's from her pumpkin spice. I'm trying to figure out what's going to be the best way to share this on screen real quick.
Yeah. She's basically trying to sell two brown colored. She uses the poop emoji in the article to describe the color of it. And she's just trying to get it out of her cottage, her like a weekend away marketplace, and she just kind of put something out, I guess, on maybe Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace to get it out there, and just, basically the digital version of this is free, kind of at the end of your driveway. Please take, this is free. But she did it digitally. So she kind of just like walks through what her initial copy was, which was, I will say, free couches, 2 gently used brown love seats from a smoke-free, pet-free seasonal cottage, very comfortable, no tears or rips. Okay, like nothing particularly wrong with that, but didn't really generate a lot of interest. And the one person that did reach out wanted delivery, and that was not part of her plan. So
I mean, not even beyond free. It's like, I know that they're free and I still want more from you. So
right, I need more. So she was like, okay, back to the drawing board. Let's rethink the way that I've written this ad. So then she rewrites it, and okay, right now we're in like pumpkin. Is it the fall or is it pumpkin spice season? No one knows, but pumpkin spice gets used a lot. So she's reframed it in pumpkin spice couches times 2, 2 upholstered, gently used love seats, and a rich caramel hue, deep, comfortable seating, generous arm with sturdy back, pillow supports. Perfect for binging Netflix or cozying up with your bestie on a chilly autumn night from a smoke-free, pet-free seasonal cottage. Sad to see these go. $95 for the pair. These won't last. So we'll reveal that. It says before I share the results. We're going to spoil it. That one did better, much better.
Right. And she includes a whole bunch of great tips in here. It's a much more sensory kind of ad. What pumpkin spice alone starts it with: caramel hue, sturdy back pillow supports, deep comfortable seating. I mean, it's much more like well, frankly, it reads like a Pottery Barn or some sort of or J. Peterman kind of ad, where they're really punching up the sensory aspects of it, the colors, the smells. Even smoke-free now kind of comes in a different kind of a vibe for it. So that's pretty good.
Right. Yeah. Because she does bring in some of the same copy from the first one, like you say, with the smoke-free, pet-free, because that is informational and important pieces of information. But yeah, she says to trigger at least 2 senses.
And then she's got, it's all real, no cliches, no pat phrases, no idioms that we would normally throw out. All of the things that are in here are things that we'll understand and they kind of ring true, but none of it is in any way cliche, staled kind of thing.
Right.
And then there's just a lot to it, imagining yourself in it, you and your bestie snuggled up to, Netflix and chill or whatever, apparently nice, big, cozy place. Your bestie, and then the emotion piece of it, I think was really good. It's the sad to see these go, which, frankly, earlier in the essay, she mentions that she kind of feels, like as the couches are sitting there next to the new couch that looks so much more new, they look sort of forlorn and, sad.
She feels for them. Yeah.
Right. And like an older dog watching you, adore a new puppy.
The puppy. Right. Yeah. Sad times. Yeah, but I think emotion, I think that's a really important key aspect to all that we do in marketing, really, because we are trying to understand the state of mind of our audience and how does emotion play into that, and what's the decision-making journey, and what are the different emotional points along the way, and how can we as marketers and writers, make sure that we're empathizing with where they are.
Right. And as much as people, we each think of ourselves as, rational actors, rational people, we really make our decisions a lot of times based on just feel. Even when we've got a whole bunch of facts, the facts are often justifying something that you had already decided because something, spoke to your heart. And so You need to say pet free, smoke free, and seasonal. So it's a little bit less used than a daily, daily home couch. But
Right.
these ideas of cozying up and being comfortable, generous, like all of that stuff gives it just a much richer vibe that then you can be like, oh, look, and it's pet free. So
Right. Right.
and then she makes the smart choice on the pricing piece too.
Yeah, that's so important, and something that you know we have learned, and perhaps you watching have learned too, is that when something is free is not as valued by the customer. They don't hold, there's no accountability there. There's no, it's like, should you have a free event, or should you charge a nominal fee, $5? If somebody pays for it, they're more likely to attend, because even if it's only $5 or something really small, they're just more likely to attend. They put their money in that, they have skin in the game, if you will. I don't know if I like that phrase, but it is a phrase that gets used a lot. Anyway, the free is really an important signal to people that it's not worth anything.
That's right. And giving a little bit of a price lets people kind of figure out where it fits in. So where it ranks as far as value. It helps people figure out what the value of it is, which again, there's whole courses and disciplines of pricing theory. How do you decide how to price your offering in comparison with the market or the other offerings that you have? All of those things are really there to, as much to cover your costs and make some money as to guide people to their understanding of the value of the thing. So
yeah, no, absolutely.
And then her final results then, from one sort of half-hearted inquiry beforehand, she ends up with actually someone purchased it, hopefully loves it, and paid $95 or $100 for the couches. So
right, and her son is sort of in awe that somebody paid that amount of money for those couches. Is what he says.
It's a happy story.
It is. Well, it is, but it's just the power of the copy in this whole, copy sells. And that's what we learned from day one as advertisers. Copy is so important.
Our elf behind the scenes says that this post reminds him of a great copywriting book. Let me pull it up here. That has a lot of great examples and kinds of inspiration. So that book is this book here, the Adweek Copywriting Handbook, Ultimate Guide to Writing Powerful Advertising and Marketing Copy, from one of America's top copywriters. So if you're interested in this kind of thing, this might be a great place to go for, happy thoughts about great copy.
Yeah, it's a good one. I have another one. I'm trying to find it. Of course, I can't remember what it's called. It's one of my favorites. It's like a thick book, and it has all these advertising campaigns. And of course, I can't find it right now, so we can't show it. But I'll try to remember it and put it in the comments. That is something we can put in the comments after the fact, right?
Yes, or add to the description as well. We can put it in all the places.
All the places. Okay.
Everywhere. It's amazing technology that we have these days. So I wanted to share this. This whole story also made me think about, I'm sharing my whole screen. Stop sharing my whole screen and just focus on the thing I want you to see, which is this. Easily the best Craigslist ad I've ever heard about. It's no longer available on Craigslist, so we have to kind of rely on these stories that cover it. Does this ring any bells for you, Sarah? Do you remember this at all?
No, this is the first time I'm seeing it.
2014. So it's an ad for a very, at the time, 27-year-old Mercedes, even older now, obviously, just trying to get someone to buy it. And this is the Mercedes in question. You can see right here. It's being sold by someone in Dallas, Texas. And this is a car that they're trying to sell for just about $3,000 with more than 220 miles on the odometer, and I assume it eventually sold, but the copy on it was so memorable. So this is a 27-year-old vintage road treasure that has seen 4 presidents, the invention of Al Gore's internet, and the rise, fall, and death of Kurt Cobain. It's old enough to vote, get an MBA and Botox, travel around Europe, and move out of its parents' garage. It also has about 20.
Sorry, I'm remembering it now.
I say about, since the speedometer, it has about this many miles. The speedometer stopped working at 220 to 60 miles, but why should you care? Because that's the mother effing distance to the moon. Yes, this car is basically driven to and past the freaking moon, the one in space. I mean, it's just this writing. I mean, it's a perfect little essay of a list, and talk about turning, flaws into features. The steering wheel is big, fluid, and offers just enough resistance and connection to the road to give the impression that you are not only in charge of the car, but also of your entire life's destiny. I mean, I cherish those phrases. It's just so fun.
Yeah. So there's humor, but there's just such great copywriting, descriptive writing, pulling in all sorts of important facets and characteristics of this car.
Absolutely. And note that this would have been shown on Craigslist, not known for how memorable or how iconic their page layouts are, but not the prettiest layouts in the world. So the copy is doing really all the heavy lifting here. So
right, which is important to consider. Where is your copy going to be? What is it going? What's going to be around it is really important to think about too as you're writing.
Absolutely. And of course, for me, my parents had a Mercedes, possibly the same model from right around the same time period. So that look was certainly an iconic style of car. So it almost makes you want to not only buy a $3,000 car, but figure out how to get it from Texas up to Pennsylvania. So.
Right. Very cool. I did find my book that just to go back to that book that I like. It's a book that I think that they use when they teach people marketing and advertising. And I put it in our chat, Cynthia. Yeah, there you go.
Here it is.
And there it is, the Creative Bible, or the ad copy book. And I don't know if they show you an open page somewhere. Yeah, there you go. They just break down, different advertising pieces of advertising. Maybe it's one print ad. They talk about the copy and the story behind it and who the writer is, and it's something that I'll crack open when I need a bit of inspiration, and thinking about all the different directions that copy can take and what it can do, and just how it can work inside of whatever the campaign is that we're trying to conceptualize. This book has definitely been helpful for me and for other team members.
Absolutely. I love great examples. I love this design. Certainly, I said it was going to show me all these images, and then it just didn't.
It tricked you. There you go.
Sneaky. That's some iconic Apple. I can spot that old Apple Garamond anywhere.
Yep.
Back in the day.
Yep. There's a famous VW Bug ad in there. There's just a lot of really good stories.
Cool. It's good. Yeah. Trying to get it to show me all the pictures, but it doesn't want to load them for us. So you'll just have to go and take a look at this article. Take a look at this book on your own.
Buy the book if you want.
Buy the book.
Buy the book. All right.
So knowing your audience, starting with your audience, and kind of like, understanding the writing process. Everybody's process is probably a little bit different. What's your writing process, Sarah? How do you find your way to getting your copy the way you want it to be?
Well, I think that my process maybe has changed over the years. I think about, writing in college, it just felt very focused on the act itself, just, having to sit down and type something and not really thinking about all of all of the other things that are so other components that are so important to writing. So now, it's just a little bit more of a exploration, I guess, thinking less about, oh, I have to write this thing by this date, and more, what does this piece of copy, need to do? What can it do? What are all the possibilities? And then letting my mind wander a little bit, just thinking about, other things, perhaps, not even thinking about the thing I need to write, and allowing those ideas to come in unexpected moments. It's really non-linear. I guess it's not like, okay, I have this thing to write and I'm going to sit down, I'm going to write it. I have to kind of be in a certain zone and have to have thought it through a little bit and have some ideas generated before I can actually do a thing. So that's me. I don't know if that's a weird thing. How about you?
Yeah, I find that there is a lot of wool gathering that has to happen. I find it's good to get a few things down, and I might need to try a couple different kinds of media to kind of start that process. So sometimes I can do it, writing in free longhand on my iPad. Other times I need an actual piece of paper, maybe a felt tip pen. I feel like a felt tip pen allows my my thoughts to flow at the appropriate rate, if you will, at least for that early kind of thinking things out piece.
Yeah.
And then, having gotten some things down, going off and doing some other things like you've said. But then I have to remember to come back
Yeah.
and finish it up. Otherwise, panic at the last minute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think just starting, once you've gone through some sort of process, whatever your process is, prior to actually writing the thing, whatever that looks like for you, then it's making sure that you start that first draft. And we did a whole little video on this, didn't we?
We did, and I don't know if we had title cards back in the day when we did that, but it is the premiere episode of Shift On, our other video series, where we talk in more detail, on a single topic, different kinds of things, not necessarily of the moment. So go back and check out that first episode 1 premiere episode of Shift Talks for the value of a rough first draft, which you might find helpful.
Mm-hmm. That's right. I think we have that linked in the description.
Yay.
Perhaps.
Check out our channel for all the good things. Like, subscribe, smash that likes button.
Yeah. Is that what they say? What the kids say these days?
That's what the kids say.
All right.
Subscribe. All right. So again, Shift On is our other series here on what is this? Office Hours. We answer different questions, but we also do some how-tos. We had some ideas for how-to for this week, Sarah. What would you like to show the folks?
Well, so, the act of copywriting often begins by setting some rules in place. If you're a brand or an organization, and, maybe you're familiar with a brand guide in terms of, the visual aspects of it, but there's also something called a language style guide that gives the rules of play for your copywriting, essentially. So it's kind of similar to the brand guide in that it's a set of rules to help everybody be on the same page and write consistently in the tone of the organization. We all are humans, and when we sit down to write, maybe we forget what we're writing for, who we're writing to. And so a language guide can, kind of just get you aligned in your writing styles. Mm-hmm. So we thought we could teach everybody about it, right?
Exactly. Absolutely. I'm going to pull up a guide that we have admired to give us something to kind of more clearly focus on as we go. So this, and again, I'm sharing the whole screen instead of just the one video because computers are hard. Yes. This is the writing guide for Mailchimp. Mailchimp, the email, mass mailing, and other kinds of contact cultivation, customer relationship management. They're kind of moving into a whole bunch of different places. Software as a service. So Mailchimp is our friend, and they also have written a really super writing guide.
They have. I mean, I think it's nice to have this sort of digital repository of all of the language and creative standards around language here. And I look at it and go, wow, that's just a lot of work. You don't just have one person sit down and just write all this out. Like when you look at their first page about the the principles and the writing goals they have, just coming up with those things, that can take months and lots of team members working together. So these things, some pieces of it you can pull together quickly. Some pieces are going to take, I think, a little bit more thought, collaboration with your team. If you have a brand guide already for your organization, but you don't have this language component as a part of it, kind of bringing back the people together that did the brand guide and saying, okay, now we need to address all of this other stuff. I guess my point is it's not a small task, and it could take many people, but it's really important and can be very helpful for all the different reasons that we've talked about.
Absolutely. And it can cover a whole number of different topics. Certainly the basics, like how things are meant to be spelled, getting your copyrights and trademarks, how, what are the things that we have certain rules around, the very basic stuff, but and their word lists, for example. These are words that we do and do not use, standardized spellings of things. So we've got all of that covered in there. The capitalization rules, all of that is good basic material that you absolutely have to have. But in addition, then they've got tips on that really lead more to this connecting with their audience, understanding the audience, and making them feel about the thing, about the brand the way that you hope. And so they're covering here voice and tone. What is voice? In this case, they are plain spoken, genuine, they translate, and they use dry humor. Their visual styles also echo all of these things. So all of that is great stuff to have in the style guide.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of maybe the general list of components, the basics, if you will, because this guide certainly has perhaps a more kind of expanded, comprehensive list of things that it involves. But I think what you need is what you were just talking about, Cynthia, which is like, okay, here's the name of our brand. Here is, here is how it's always, we always capitalize it completely, or we always have, we never abbreviate it, and just kind of the rules around how you want your brand's name to be used in writing specifically, because you've got the logo that probably has your brand name in it. That's different, and that's part of the visual styles. But this is more, what gets capitalized, what doesn't, do we put, a trademark on it or not? Like, do we put the little R or not? Just those types of rules are really important. And I think, so you have to have that for sure. I think that you should also have, rules around things that you would abbreviate, acronyms. I think, every industry has some jargon or has some, different terms that get thrown around a lot. And if it just so happens that, your audience needs to see those, and pretty much everybody in the industry knows what these things mean, then, you could perhaps use them. But in general, we try to stay away from that sort of thing, just so that your writing is clear and not, having somebody stumble upon it and not know what that acronym is. And if you didn't fully explain it, that would be, confusing and challenging for somebody. So, so the way you have your brand name, explain rules around acronyms and jargon. What else?
Words that you should not use, phrases not to use, or, for other kinds of intellectual property reasons, maybe you're not using because they are maybe a competitor's actual term. You don't want to necessarily overlap that, or maybe there'll be other issues around it. So those things, what not to use, and preferred, style and voice and all of the stuff that we're talking about there. how you
Right.
speak to different audiences, if it changes depending on the situation or the context. Like in social media, maybe there's a slight variation to what you're doing.
Right, right. Yeah. So there could be messaging by audience that you want to lay out, messaging in or voice and tone in different channels. Like here's how we talk on our website, here's how it looks in social media, here's how it's in print, and all of that good stuff. And then I think some of our clients have, what we might call a sub brand, or maybe it's a program. So you have the larger organization, but then you have these sub brands, and they might each have their own name that has its own rules around it. So you would want to detail that all out in the language guide. And maybe there's different audiences for each of these things. So you would want to talk through all of that. And I think those are a good start to building out your language style guide. And I don't know, what do you think about joining it with the visual standards? Do you think it should all be in one place? Do you think it should be separate? What are your thoughts?
I think there's a real value to having them together in some way, just because so often that they do rely on each other. There's the brand styles. Often you have to refer from one to the other, and I think the more often you have to kind of cross-reference, the more of an indicator it is that it would be good to kind of group them. If it's hard for some reason to update the whole thing, then I suppose that'd be a reason to break them apart. What's your thinking? What do you prefer, or what do you find useful?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I do like it all together in one place, because I think when I go to use the brand standards document, I am not just going for maybe one thing. Perhaps I'm, maybe just going to get like a sense of, okay, what is this brand all about? What are the rules of play? How do we communicate? The first time that we're starting to work with a client, like I would want to look at everything in one place. But I think there is a case to be made for having certain things a little bit more, handy. So, your color codes and the voice and tone elements and just different things you could have more at a glance, which is kind of how I feel about this Mailchimp guide is like, styleguide.mailchimp.com, you know how to get there, and you'd be like, I'm just looking for that one thing, nice table of contents. You can easily get to it. So I don't know, I see kind of the having it online like this and having it be very, navigatable. Is that a word? Easily navigated.
Navigable, I think is the word.
Yeah.
That would be
I think I
put in your guide.
Yeah, I think I need my own personal brand guides, language guides. Anywho, yeah, I mean, I think that the way that Mailchimp has done it here has made it really user friendly and, easy to find thing when you're looking for a very particular thing. Whereas with a really big, long, 40-page brand standards PDF, you still, even if you have a jumpable table of contents, you still might not know the thing you're looking for is inside of this chapter. And, I don't know, you might have to hunt around. So I see value in both, but I do like everything being together as well.
Yeah. I think there's, I'm thinking of two situations. I'm deciding from my past, and I'm deciding whether to name the companies involved or not. And I think I'm going to just vague them out here a little bit. But so I can remember a time
Mysterious.
where one of the software companies I used to work for, we had different writers, each responsible for different books in the set of that we used to do books, if you can imagine the day, that said how to use the software. And so there was one guide for a person in an administrative role, another guide for a person who's doing this type of work, and a third guide person that type of work. You can guess which company this is if you look at my LinkedIn bio and think about what kind of a system would be needed for that. So with each different, what ended up happening was, since there was maybe one or maybe two people like really owning one of these books, the styles across them were a little bit different. The style for the one guide would have had a little bit different flair. The visual look was the same, but the writing style was just a little bit different. And in that case, it wasn't necessarily because it was a different audience. It's just that writer had a different style. And so at another situation that another company that I worked for, they had put together a guide that showed all the language lists and things that we're talking about here, your writing style, and also like how to build the manual itself. Like what should illustrations look like? What should call outs look like? How should instructions be written? And that guide was written mostly by one of the writers on the team. And this was a company where we really applied that style across. But it seems to me that having multiple people involved in writing the style guide, it leans toward more buy-in on the part of the people doing the work. So that was a long way to get around to the point that being more team-oriented and collaborative in developing your rules of work is going to, I think, help people actually follow those rules. You'll also have more people giving input, and that maybe will help you capture more situations.
Yeah, that's what I was going to call attention to, is that all those different perspectives from maybe different departments, and, having non-writers and non-designers in on it to say, like, this is, a use case that's pretty common, and the designer or the writer might not have been thinking about that. So I think that, those different voices and perspectives are very important. And I think it's, I guess I'm interested in your opinion on this. Having all these roles and having all this structure, does it sort of box in a brand to not be as creative, or does it lay the groundwork for more creativity?
I think it has the potential for either of those. And a little bit of that is sort of like team culture. Like how do people view innovation, and can innovation be written into the rules in some way? You know what I mean? So it's like, these are the things that need to be done, and this is where you can flex. And you can kind of think of like situations where actors, are they allowed to ad lib or not? And as long as the expectations are there, maybe then you have a little bit of freedom. There's some brands, for example, Apple Computer, I bet, has literally no opportunity for you to ad lib. Like that is not their style, whereas apparently Netflix, that we were talking about earlier, is very much not so many rules. And they're sort of like, look, we hire the smart people, we evaluate them, we get rid of people apparently ruthlessly, frankly. But what we are counting on is that the people who are there have a lot of leeway. You spend whatever you need as long as it is in the service of Netflix. And so that's a very different, it's all part of the culture, as well as, it is part of the culture and part of the ethos, I think.
Right. Yeah. I think it's important to think about that. You think about a brand standards guide, a language style guide, as it's just sort of one and done. We do it, and then it's there if we need it. And it's, certainly right now, many companies are evolving their messaging. So you should go back to the guide and say, how are we going to, add in more to explain what happens when there's a pandemic with our messaging, or, if you add a new product, then that would be another time to go in and obviously change both, or add to the visual and copy standards. So these guides are not meant to be, kind of one moment fixed thing in time. They are meant to grow with the organization. So I think that, if perhaps you're looking at a dusty old brand standards guide for your company, it would be a good time to look at it with new eyes, and think about how it's being used, how it could be used in your organization, how you could make it really fly for you.
I wonder whether you might have things like an addendum to your style guide for use during the pandemic or something, because it's a piece of it where you would like to go back to the original style when things calm down, but will that ever happen? And so still, you might say, we're going to do this for a certain amount of time. Here is the addendum or the add-on or the appendix for this period. And then 2 years out, you say, how much of that do we want to now bring forward? So where we talked about Netflix and their evolving internal communications now being more inclusive, that doesn't seem like something you want to shut off later. Like, you want to have that be something that you carry forward. But there might be other things like, okay, we have to have pictures of everyone in masks. Is that going to be a permanent thing?
Right. I hope not. Yeah, sorry, a little bit of my own opinion coming through there, but I think that that's just all the more reason to be revisiting your, standards on a regular basis. And, you know, you might find that the way you're communicating is better now in the pandemic. And like you say, you may not carry through some of the visual elements of it, but, you know, thinking about the audience's emotional state and, you know, not, you know, putting your product in front of them every single second of every single ad or every single opportunity you have to get in front of them could be something that, you know, is a good change for your organization to make forever.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
So folks, let us know what you're thinking about some of this stuff. Do you have a style guide, a language guide, as well as a brand guide? Do you even have a brand guide? Like, what are those things useful to your organization? Or if you're starting to put one together, what questions do you find yourself wrestling with? We would love to chat about that stuff with you. Send in questions to officehours@shiftcollaborative.com, or join us next week or the week after here on Office Hours, and we'll talk about it some more. Do you have any final words for the folks, Sarah?
No, just have a good weekend. It's fall here in Pittsburgh, and just get outside.